Hello, everybody. This is Chibi Joe, and this is the writer's journey. And this is the story that I have equally both most looked forward to talking about and dreaded. It is probably the only story that I've ever completed, at least in terms of like the first book. It is also potentially my most cringy. Um, it is called Nightmare. I wrote it. I believe I started forming the idea in sophomore year, but started writing it junior year. Um, it started with a nightmare, hence why it's called Nightmare, of the main character, Sero Tekube, running through, I think it was a cornfield. And he was bitten by a werewolf, and the werewolf was like, "Now we are one." The scene changes to a therapist office. He then goes to a dorm room where he is then ambushed by basically a SWAT team. He then kills the SWAT team by turning into a werewolf and then ends up at a school. Like the facility is part of like a school or academy with other supernatural creatures. Somehow he didn't know this. I don't know how he didn't know this. Um, but yeah, there he meets Kale, who was a shapeshifter, I believe. Um, or maybe a telepath. I can't remember which. Um, and they hit it right off, and they just immediately started dating because that's what junior year Chibi Joe thought relationships were, just things that hit off perfectly from the start. Um, he ends up having a dream where he goes into her dream because werewolves in my world, I guess, each have like a special ability, and his was like the power of entering in other sleeping people's minds and just kind of chilling. Yeah, I don't get it either. He also had this like borderline schizophrenic relationship with the werewolf side. I can't say that it's like, I don't want to say it's quite insensitive to people with schizophrenia, with actual schizophrenia, and also DID, because I didn't know any better. I really didn't. I was pretty sheltered from that stuff. I knew it existed, but I didn't know quite what it was. I don't know why I didn't know what it was. I just didn't. Um, so I do apologize to anyone who read that story and thought I was like shitting on those with those disorders and those issues. That was never my intention. So I'm apologizing here and now for dumbass 17-year-old Chibi Joe. I know I don't necessarily have to apologize for it, but I feel I should because it was bad. It was bad and cringy. It played on a lot of stereotypes that I remember was in a lot of anime I watched. Um, uh, you then like find they then like later on there's like a tournament arc in this book. I don't remember what the prize was. I don't think there was a prize, to be honest. I think it was just a tournament for tournament's sake. Um, you meet a vampire named Goss, which my friend Gary created. And Goss and Sarah were like perfect opposites. Um, because I came up with this lore where for every werewolf there's a vampire that's his perfect equal, his or her perfect equal. And that is his. Goss was his perfect equal. And they ended up fighting in the finals and pretty much destroyed the simulation room where they were hosting the tournament. I thought that was pretty cool. I came up with another really cool werewolf lore where, like, there is someone... Because, like, all werewolves have, like, a mark on them. And, like, all of them are, like, slightly different. Whether in color or shape or whatever, they are different. And, Sero beat Goss. He later met with an elementalist named Donce, I think was his name. It wasn't Dante. It was like Donce. Which I feel is probably a bad word in some language. It sounds like it would be a bad word in some language. But I didn't want to go with Dante because I felt Dante was too on the nose because I just found out that Devil May Cry exists. And I'm like, no, I don't want Dante because Dante is already a cool, like, half-god dude. He's a Nephilim, right? Is that, like, his official, like, species name is, like, Nephilim? Or is that only in the weird, somehow more emo reboot? Anyways, Donce and his girlfriend, who I cannot remember the name of, they introduced him to two werewolves, and that werewolf named Dawn, she had the matching mark to him, and basically what this matching mark is basically, this is your life partner. This is who you're meant to be with. And you, like, instinctively want to be with them. It's like what Twilight did, but not weird. Like, I tried making it seem more instinctive and, like, have, like, a reason behind the instinct rather than imprinting on a baby, which is just weird. And if Twilight fans want to argue with it, you tell me how it's not weird. You tell me how it's not weird. I'm not saying Twilight is good or bad. I think it's terrible. But you tell me, from a subjective standpoint, how imprinting is not weird. Jacob imprinted on a baby. That is weird. Anyways. Back to the story. So they plan on escaping from this prison lab school place. And so they make a plan. They go through with the plan. Also, Goss has a thrall named Haley. And she also became attracted to Sero. It was my first time ever writing a harem. And I didn't know what a harem was. I don't know why. I guess I wanted to, like... My only guess, knowing how I was back then, my only guess is I was reading Twilight at the time, and I wanted to do a parody in terms of, like specifically the romance aspect of parody of that. And so I'm like, well, I'll make 3 partners. Without knowing that the harem anime genre would come to be one of my favorite genres, period. I feel like there's a lot of things that I haven't come to terms with in terms of my preferences, romantically speaking. So We'll probably find that out in about 4 or 5 years. Um, um, my brain stopped. It'll start back up again. So yeah, they end up making the plans to escape, and they actually like somehow succeed, except for Dawn's brother who dies on the way out. He dies, and then for whatever reason, Sarah was like, "I gotta leave." Like he led them out of this building, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta go now." And then that's how the book ends, is with him running into the forest. This was going to be a 3-book series, and I remember writing like 8 chapters of the next book. And to run it down, I actually had a high school friend write Haley. And for a chapter. And it was really bad. Her chapter was fine, but just it was more of the setup of all of the stuff and how Goss is, and how Goss, because like Goss and another elementalist named Randy, it's either Randy or Ronde, I can't remember. His appearance was based off my friend Randy, but personality was completely different. Randy was not nearly as conniving or tricksy, as Gollum would say, as Ronde. Ronde McClellan, I think was his name. Anyways, so they also showed up to this, and Sarah is still gone. Someone goes out to grab him. They get ambushed by someone, and Sarah saves them and brings them back. And then there was a reunion. Dawn, like, slaps him across the face. Like, how dare you do this to us? How dare you do this to me? Yeah. And that's about as far as I remember getting. The third book was going to be the finale, and I was gonna somehow get Sarah and Goss to fight near like a canyon, and he was going to like throw Goss over the canyon, and Goss was just gonna die just to like basically the shock of impact being too strong for him to regenerate from. And yeah, that's what's going to be the big reveal. It's very strange. It makes no sense. There was no plans. I was literally like, there was like 2 or 3 ideas per book, and then I was just going to write the rest of it as I went on. Would I write this book again, or would I make this into an audio drama? Yes, I would, actually. It is cringy. It is stupidly edgy, which is weird because I wasn't an edgy kid. Like, I would like to... I was more of a goofy kid. Like, I was more of a goof off and a moron than anything. Like, a smart moron. I liked happy endings. And I still do. I still really like happy endings. I know, like, not every story needs a happy ending, and honestly, when a story has a painful ending, that has its own satisfaction to it. But, me personally, I like writing happy endings. I like writing that losses and all, everything turned out okay, even if you've lost people along the way. And I think a lot of that is my own mental state, and, like, the moments of depression. I like knowing that I can write someone else's life to be happy. even when in a moment in time I may not be. So yeah, it was very out of the blue for me to write like that. I can only say I had so much satisfaction writing Straventero's story that it led to me wanting to write another like darker story. Which I write darker moments, but I try to add more levity to them. So yeah, I would probably keep the most generic premise of it, of like other supernatural creatures and stuff like that. I would probably add some and take away others in terms of like the different kinds of quote unquote species there are. I would take out the school aspect. I would take, because I'm an adult now. The only reason I wrote them into school is because I was in school. I was 17. So 16, 17 years old. And so that's why they were there. Yeah, I remember really wanting to make this story good and in depth, and I didn't know what those words meant, so I would succeed in doing that because I know what those words mean now. I would probably not have the harem. I'd probably go with the easy route and just have him and Dawn have that instinctual attraction. And then them trying to figure out, what does that mean, though? Do I really love you, or is my body just telling me I do? And have that be like a B plot, like a continual B plot for like the entire for at least the first book and the first half of the second book. If I was to write the 3-book series again, I probably wouldn't write the tournament arc. I'd probably have conflict between Goss and, because I love the name Goss. It's such a stupid name, but I freaking love it. I'm really happy that my friend Gary came up with that, because my God, that's such a badass name. But yeah, no, I would do this, and I would probably make it into an audio drama too. I don't know how I would make it into an audio drama. Like if the story would be any different, or would I have to add things, take away things? So yeah. I think the funniest thing is, like, I thought cuddling was like the most intimate thing, which I guess like it isn't wrong. I still am a huge lover of cuddles, but like I'm like, oh, how degenerate, they're cuddling, as if sex didn't exist. But yeah, either way, I would still do this. I probably would have a smaller cast of characters, because I had like 15 characters as main characters. I'm like, yeah, probably not that many. But yeah, I totally would. It was a fun book. It wasn't good, but I think I had some really good ideas with every vampire and every werewolf have an equivalent to rival themselves. And anytime they get stronger, the other one gets stronger. And I also really like the instinctual mates or instinctual lovers, whatever word you want to use. I know some people feel really dirty when I say the word mates, but I like making werewolves more feral and more like primal. I just have always written that. I'm not saying that I will never write a socially efficient werewolf. I think Kuro in New Moon Academy is relatively socially he's adaptable. You can throw him into a public and he's not going to like bring attention to himself. He's probably just going to do what he needs to do and leave. Like, he's very straightforward. But that's all I have for you guys today. So if you guys want, subscribe, like, and I'll be doing more videos like this in the future. I'd say we're probably about halfway done with the writer's journey. After that, I will probably, there's gonna be a couple of series I start in its place. I don't know which one I'm really going to focus on. One of them is going to be really hard to do. One of them will be really easy to do. So I'm kind of debating about what to do there. But yeah, this has been a long one. And I actually am really not surprised because this is the one that I remember most writing and really being proud of myself. And you know what? I'm still proud of myself. It's hard writing a book. If anyone has tried writing a story, it's hard, especially if it's a genre you aren't efficient at. And I remember being proud that it actually, like, at least at the time, made sense. Nowadays, there's a lot of there needed to be a lot more wind down parts. It was like this happened and then this happened and this happened and this happened. There was no moments to breathe. It was like anxiety in a story. Like it just kept on going and going and going, but nothing really happened. So that was another thing that really needed to be worked on. But yeah, I'll let you guys go. I appreciate you all. Have an awesome day and a good night.